there, friends and sane persons, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and Wednesday Whimsy is a short show I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10 list, or some other board game related topic, whatever happens to be on my mind at the time. Well, so I was waiting this week for a game that I might talk about on a future Wednesday Whimsy called Flock Together, which is all about chickens. And I was thinking of what to talk about this week, and I thought, well, I haven't talked about just sort of an animal theme on a Wednesday Whimsy before, so that's what I decided to do. Wearing my dragonfly hat. I'm often wearing my dragonfly fez because it's one of my favorites, and I have it in many different colors, but today I guess it's appropriate because that's an animal, I guess. Anyway, so what I'm talking about here are games that feature animals prominently. I'm not going for games where animals are just sort of tangential. There's one that's questionable, and but in general, I mean, I'm talking about a game where really what you're thinking about here is the animals, and I don't care if the animals are sort of your anthropomorphic animals, or if they're animals in a zoo, or if they are racing up tracks, or just on cards. This is all about games where animals really play a role. So I'll tell you about 10 of my favorites. I think this is kind of fun because I'll get to talk about a few games that I don't talk about that often. So let's start off with number 10. So my number 10 is really a weird game. I don't know how else to describe it. It's almost more of a trivia game than it is an actual game. But let me find my banner for it here. It is called Fauna, which is obviously all about animals. This is from mad genius game designer Friedman Fries, and he came up with this game. Oh, I guess was it 2008? It says. So this game. Sorry, let me put it on the screen. What you're doing is you're going to draw an animal out, and it's going to have some statistics. It looks like this animal is in Hungarian because why wouldn't it be? And you're ultimately going to be trying to guess various statistics about the animal, such as where it lives, such as how big its tail is, how large it is, various other facts and figures. Then you'll look at the animal card and you're going to score based upon whether you were right on or close. It's a game that, it's definitely not one of my favorite games to play. Usually once is enough for me, and then I can put it away for a while. But it is very much about animals, right? It's all about, and it has some educational value. It's an interesting game. I think it was even nominated for one of the Spiel des Jahres awards back when it came out, or at least recommended. I don't recall exactly, but that's, I think, where I heard about it. But so you've got the weight, you have its height, and you have the length of its tail, as well as places on Earth that it might inhabit. Anyway, it's an interesting game. There's a couple others. There's a one called Earth, and there's another one that I can't recall the name of. I think it started with another F, but I don't think it was Flora. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It'll come to me, I'm sure, as I go through this list at just the wrong time. But America. There's one called America. That's what it is. There's Terra and America. Neither of those start with F. But they're all kind of the same concept. Really an interesting kind of knowledge game where you can also piggyback off of other people because if you get close to someone else, you still get some points. Anyway, interesting game. Number 10, Fauna. Let's go to number 9. My number 9 is a game that it often comes up on different lists for having, one of the ugliest covers and some of the ugliest art. Ilya would have that be Golden Ages, but I think this one beats it. This game is called Inhabit the Earth. For whatever reason, I always think it's called Inherit the Earth. I guess, that's what the meek do. In fact, when I originally wrote this banner, I wrote it wrong, so I had to change it. The game is from the minds that brought you the Key series of games, Keyflower, Cathedral, Key Market, etc. Except this one, the artist, who I believe is the designer's wife, really I don't know what she was doing here. I guess animals are not her forte to draw because all these animals look either psychotic or stoned, and it's kind of that way throughout the game. Each card has another horrific piece of art. But what you're doing in the game, once you get past, oh look, there's even more. Have them as a poster. And the game itself, the artwork's kind of sparse, but you're really trying to adapt your animals to move up these various tracks so that you can kind of reach the top, you can score the most points, etc. You're going to play a different animal across different continents, different types. There's, the herbivore and the bird, etc. And you can kind of move them from one area to another and try and jump ahead of others. And that's kind of what you're trying to do is, score to the top of these tracks. It's ultimately what it is. But it's all about the animals and kind of their specifics and their statistics. And there's, some things you can learn about them too. But it's very much a heavy animal theme in this game, even if the artwork is horrific. So I recommend checking it out. I don't recommend buying it. But it's one that, it doesn't get a lot of love. It's, I'm sure, long out of print. But it really is an interesting game that's not quite like anything else and definitely will show up in your nightmares. So I'll let you kind of see that picture one more time. There you go. My number 9, Inhabit the Earth. Let's go to number 8. We go from a horrendously ugly game to a rather good-looking game, one that's often been praised for its artwork. This game is the perennial classic, the game about birds, Wingspan. I'm specifically not putting Wormspan on because for most people would consider dragons not to be real animals, and that's the point of this list, is real ones. But Wingspan, a very popular game, came out, I think, 2019, and just was, it took the world by storm. It has, it's all about one particular type of animal, specifically birds, and you are placing them in their habitats, feeding them, having them store eggs, and scoring bonus points for a variety of different things. The theme, not particularly strong, but definitely well developed, right? It's definitely all about these birds and what you can do with them. Plus, each one has a little piece of flavored text, some sort of little fact about it, and so you can learn something about the birds too. There are, there have been promised many expansions, so there have been delivered just a few. There's an Asian, an European, and an Australian expansion, which add more birds to it. But it's still enjoyable, even with only 1,000 or 2,000 cards. I don't know how many, but there's too many to shuffle. And it comes now in a huge box. I enjoy Wingspan. I don't know that I would pick it over Wormspan most days, because Wormspan's a little, it's a little more streamlined, I guess. But I really enjoy Wingspan nonetheless. It is my number 8 animal game. Let's go on now to number 7. My number 7 animal game is a game that I don't know that it took the world by storm. In fact, I think it came out to, it was been largely ignored. I don't know that it really made the splash I was thinking it would. This game is Life of the Amazonia. And I thought I had it here. Yeah, Life of the Amazonia. So this game is all about kind of building these habitats for animals in the Amazon. And it's a bag building style game where you're going to be buying these various chips, putting them into a bag, drawing them out, using them for different things. There's 4 different kinds of currencies. And ultimately what you're trying to do, in almost Cascadia-like fashion, is there's a bunch of different animals, represented by cute meeples, that you're trying to place on your board. And each one is going to, not come with that token, but this must be a prototype. But it's going to score you in a different way based upon what's around it, where it is. And you're just trying to get the most points. There's also, there's a variety of different scoring conditions for each different animal type. And it all comes across as very adorable. You are also going to have your own specific animal with a special power that is unique to you, and it can kind of help you figure out what you want to do. It's from the same people who did Wild Serengeti, which I have not played, obviously. It's not obvious that I haven't played it, but it's obvious that it's from them. And it's a great game. It looks great. This over here is Wild Serengeti. I'm just talking about the Amazon. And it's a great animal theme, really all about them. And it's the gameplay is simple and straightforward and a lot of fun. So that is my number 7, Life of the Amazonia. Let's go now to number 6. All right, and as we move into number 6, we start talking about games I talk about a little bit more. This one less than others, but this is Cascadia. Cascadia, winner of one of the Spiel des Jahres awards in whichever year, probably the year after it came out. This is a game about sort of taking sets of things and forming a habitat on which you're going to put these delightful little animal tokens. You are going to be scoring the animals. Every game has the same sort of set of animals. You've got salmon and elk and bears and foxes and hawks, but they're each going to score in a different way. And so as you're kind of selecting your sets, you're always going to take one landscape tile and one animal tile as a pair, or you're going to spend a resource to kind of mix that up a bit, place them out, and then eventually you're going to score them at the end of the game. It's a very engaging game. It's not long. It's really easy to get into. A well-deserved Spiel winner, and just a fantastic game that really is the best of its type out there. In fact, it replaced some of the games of the same company that came before, like Calico, and really, later games like, what was the one about lights? There's one about houseplants that really can't hold a candle to it. This one is just fantastic and fun, and very much all about the animals that show up in it. So that's my number 6, Cascadia. Let's go now to number 5. All right, my number 5 is a game that I do talk about a little bit. In fact, I discovered it on the cruise this year, and it really just charmed me to no end, and that is Forest Shuffle. So Forest Shuffle, a card game, definitely I think the smallest of the games on my list, but it's about you're building a forest, and you're going to be placing animals into the forest. So you've got trees, obviously, well, not because it's a forest, and apparently a lot of different names, but you're going to be placing these trees, but more than that, you're going to be putting animals around them. So you're going to be putting birds and squirrels and butterflies atop the trees. You'll be putting, well, shrubs, but also, lizards and salamanders and frogs and moles underneath the trees. And then you'll be putting various wildlife, foxes, deer, a bear, raccoons, whatever it happens to be, on the left and right of the tree. And they're each going to score in their own different way. So you're kind of building up your own scoring tableau. The scoring can be a little annoying, but it's manageable. It's a great game. It's not long. It's one that I would play with just about anybody, and then I would shuffle it and play it again. So there's also a new expansion that's about the Alpine, and it just adds a few more animals and a few more trees, and it's a very easy expansion to integrate, and it's just a great time about building this forest full of animals. That's my number 5, Forest Shuffle. Let's go now to number 4. I know that's a surprise. Number 5. Gotta forget when I click that button, I go silent. So my number 4 is a game I do talk about a bit. It is probably the most complicated of the games on my list. It's a game that is all about animals. These are, unlike, I think this is the first one where they're going to be kind of not acting like animals. They're fighting and using might and right in the woodlands. This game is, of course, Root, a game of woodland might and right. This is just such a fascinating experience. So the core game has 4 different factions in it. You've got birds, you've got cats, you've got other woodland creatures that are represented by mice, and then you've got a raccoon or the vagabond who's going to sort of roam around, and you can get different versions of him that are different animals. The hook of this game is that each of the different factions kind of has its own way to play the game. So you learn the birds, you're just playing the birds, you're doing what they do, and someone else might have learned this cat faction, but they're doing a completely different thing. They're building their economy. You're trying to plan your turns and program them so that you can last as long as possible. It's just a really fascinating game. You add to it several other different factions from expansions, and you just have a game with lots of variety, lots of fun. It is a very hard game to get into. It requires a lot of effort to learn the rules. It requires a lot of effort to teach. The first game is going to be rough, no matter who you're playing with, no matter how good a gamer they are. But it is really one of those games that's worth the payoff. I wish that there were a big box to store everything, because my version fits in several boxes. But it is a beautiful game. It's got great artwork, whimsical, and it really put this company on the map. I mean, Vast came out before it, but Leader Games is the publisher. But Root really is their kind of core game, and I'm looking forward to more. I'm sure more is coming. Also, the best way to try this is on the app. There's an app that's on iPad and probably other sources as well. I believe it's from Direwolf Digital. It's fantastic. It teaches you the game. It doesn't let you make mistakes. And I would almost suggest, that's the way to teach it, is to give somebody the app, let them play through it, and learn it that way, and then come to the table and have the experience like that. But it is really, it's a game you cannot play without the animals. It's all about them. It is my number 4, and that is Root. Okay, just 3 left. So the top 3, it's rough for me. The number 3 is a game that's also really all about the animals, but it's another one of those games where the animals are very anthropomorphic and doing non-animal things. But because the hook of the game is this adorable artwork and this adorable world in which you're going to be playing, and that game is Everdell. So Everdell, it's a game that I haven't played in a while, but when I do play it, I'm going to get right back in and be ready to go, because this is a game that just grabs you. It is, at its core, a tableau game, right? You're building a tableau of 15 cards, and you're trying to make combinations. And those combinations can be made, the husband and wife want a farm. The historian wants the clock tower. And if you play the things in the right order, you get a bonus of being able to play the sort of animal that lives in the structure for free. But you're trying to get points. There's goals that you can go through. There's adorable meeples, and each of the different factions has its own meeple. And you can play where they have special abilities. There's several expansions. Some are amazing, some are, situational. But the game itself, sort of the core experience, is really very fascinating, adorable, and it's a game where it really is all about all these animals and the world that they live in. The artwork, like I mentioned earlier, is just fantastically adorable. It really, I believe, kind of started Andrew Bosley, who's the artist, as sort of a board game art powerhouse. And I just really enjoy this game. I recognize it's not perfect. That's why it's only my number 3. But it's one that I'll gladly go back to anytime. And there's also a decent app for it now. So that's an extra bonus. Anyway, enough about Everdell. I'm getting long already. So let's go to my number 2. My number 2 is the only one that I feel bad about. It feels almost like a cheat, but after I started thinking about it, I was like, well, but it really isn't, right? This is a game that really is all about the animal that's involved, and that animal is a cow or a sheep if you go to New Zealand, and the game is Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail, a deck building-ish game where you're also moving up on this one-way track, and when you get to the end, you're going to have to reset, but you're also going to cash in and get something. You're trying to build up your hand of cattle or sheep, and you're basically doing other actions in furtherance of that. And I feel bad because all these pictures are not about the cows, but you'll see there's this cow market down here, and there's lots of points to be had from them. And really, that's what you're trying to do. You're using these cows to fuel every other action in the game. So really, I mean, people refer to it as just the cow game, people that I play with. So how could it not, right? I mean, it's not about a variety of animals like some of the other games. It's just cows, or again, sheep. Um, but it's a great game. It's one that I rank a 10 out of 10, and so it had to be on my list once I got comfortable with the fact that it was about animals. Again, it's the least about animals of any of the games on this list, but it's my list, so there you go. Number 2, Great Western Trail. Let's move on quickly to my number 1. And I suspect there was never any doubt, well, I know there wasn't for me about my number 1. It's my most played of all the games on here, especially now that it's on Board Game Arena. This game is Ark Nova. Ark Nova, a game about building a zoo. You just immediately see animals on the cover. It is all about the zoo, but what are you doing with the zoo is you're housing animals, and you're trying to get animals that live in different habitats or that exhibit different characteristics. You're trying to get goals based upon the animal's size or whether it lives in water or whatever it happens to be. The game comes with hundreds of cards, most of which represent animals. It is kind of an odd game to play just because that board is so long, but there are play mats you can buy on Etsy or probably elsewhere that will condense it down and make it a little bit more manageable. I mean, this game is just fantastic. It's a game I'm always in the mood for. It just never gets old for me. I love the mechanism of kind of making your cards stronger the longer that they wait around. I like the interactions and sort of the collection of tags. I mean, this is just such a fantastic game, and it's a zoo, so how could it not be about the animals? It's one that I just love to play. And again, the ability to play it on Board Game Arena, especially if the expansion ever gets there, will make this just one that I can play all the time. But I always enjoy setting it up and playing the physical version as well. There's just some real charm of having the control and figuring things out yourself. And either way you play it, it's a great game. And it's all about animals. And there you have it. That is my top 10 games about animals, my top 10 animal games. Hopefully you saw something that I don't talk about that often, as well as some things that I often talk about, because I like what I like. And that's all I've got for you today. I'll be back again next week with another topic. Not sure what it is yet. Maybe I'll talk about the flock together, or maybe I'll talk about something else. We'll see what I'm feeling like when next Wednesday rolls around. But until then, I'm going to wish you safe travels, courage when you need it, and I will see you back next time on another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.